What's up, guys? It's been 9 months, almost a year, potentially.
Long time.
We have not made a video since we announced that Ellie was pregnant. So we're 4 months in right now. This little guy's almost 4 months old, and we don't want to forget his entire birth story. So this video is us talking about things leading up to Shep's birth, his birth story, and then just a little bit of life after he came into our lives.
So, from the beginning, where we'll start, Shep was originally due. His due date was November 12th, and I was planning on going back to school at the beginning of the school year and teaching right up until his due date. I only ended up teaching for 2 weeks. I went back the first week of September, and I think I made it 2 full weeks, right? Mm-hmm. And I was in my 3rd week, maybe?
Yep. Something
like that. But I ended up having some stressful things going on at school. And I just wasn't feeling great in my pregnancy. I had a really great pregnancy to start. And then just those couple of weeks at school, I was just not feeling right. Like I wasn't feeling like myself. Things just didn't feel like as good as they were. So one day I ended up deciding to go in to labor and delivery to make sure everything was okay, because I wasn't really feeling a whole lot of movement, and they were able to notice that I was contracting. Yeah. Having contractions very close together. So
8 weeks early too.
At that point, yes, it was 8 weeks early. They tried a lot of different things. They tried giving me a lot of fluids. They tried giving me injections and giving me oral medicines, and nothing stopped the contractions, and they were actually getting stronger and closer together as they continued to monitor me. And at that point, since our hospital doesn't have a NICU for babies that are born early, they actually don't even deliver babies before 36 weeks if they can avoid it. So they decided to transfer me by ambulance to the Children's Hospital in Buffalo, where if I were to have him at that point, we would be both in better shape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and from my standpoint, 8 weeks before Ellie is due, I really wasn't in the mindset of it could happen any day now. So when Ellie was in the hospital, it wasn't really a big deal. We had been there quite a bit just for really just making sure everything was progressing okay. And when they said that they were going to send Ellie via ambulance to Buffalo, that was probably the scariest thing that I've gone through in our marriage, because I knew that I couldn't be in the ambulance. I knew Ellie was scared. And once she got in the ambulance and we got on the road, I didn't know what was going on, and I couldn't get a hold of her at first. So what I did in that car ride was and don't arrest me, but I was texting and calling everybody that I knew and just asking for prayers, because I didn't fully understand what was going on and I didn't know what else to do. And eventually, probably about an hour into the ride, I called Ellie, and she finally picked up, and I just said, is everything okay? She told me in the calmest and strongest voice ever, she said, I feel so much peace. I just knew that that was just a testament to the power of prayer. And without all the prayers that we were getting, I don't think we would have had so much peace. And Ellie telling me that gave me peace as well.
We hadn't had a baby shower. We didn't have a car seat in the car. We didn't have anything ready to go. And so I think in that moment, we didn't plan on having a baby. It was the weirdest thing, because that doesn't make a lot of sense, but it was like, okay, God's got us and God's got this, and like we're gonna be fine and everything's gonna be okay. So
at the hospital, we found out, like we knew, that Ellie was having some contractions that she should not be having. They tried for 3 days to get them to stop, and it wasn't until they took Ellie off of all of the treatments and medications that they were trying until she actually did stop having her contractions. What we did find in that visit to the hospital was that Ellie's blood pressure was at a place that was concerning, So we left the hospital with a diagnosis of gestational hypertension.
Yeah. And so basically when we left the hospital, they had said, you know, this is, we just have to monitor this because it can turn really quick. They just said follow up with your OB at home and keep an eye on it. We left. I was so thankful to be discharged. I remember taking a shower and being like, I'm going home and baby's still in me. And they wheeled me out, and me and Brennan went and celebrated over some pancakes. And then we went home. Brennan had his diaper party with all of his friends, so we loaded up on diapers, which was perfect that week. Literally that night we got home. My baby shower was the following Saturday. So fast forward, that was 1 week. We didn't even make it 2 full weeks at home before, as at one of my routine prenatal appointments, my doctor wanted to admit me and keep me overnight at our hospital here just to basically see what my numbers looked like overnight. So they continually checked my blood pressure that night. And then Brennan met me there around like 6:30, and he was just gonna stay the night with me there. We were gonna watch our show. He brought his computer. And we were just hanging out. We got to the point where the doctor came in and said, we're gonna have to transfer you to Buffalo tonight to be induced, and you're gonna have your baby.
Yeah. Her blood pressure was high enough that she was both a seizure and a stroke risk. And her and Shep were both, their health was in jeopardy at this point. So that's the reason that they had to make that decision that we were going to deliver 6 weeks early.
I guess the biggest thing about this time was that this time we weren't so afraid, I think. Although we knew we were going to be having our baby, we also knew what to expect. It was my second ambulance ride. It was our second transfer. We knew that we were going, where we were going, how to get there. And we just basically knew, okay, we're going and we're going to have our baby. We had already had our baby shower and our diaper party, and it was like the biggest God thing ever. He was like, okay, now's the time.
Yeah. Just like the first ambulance trip to Buffalo, I was in the car behind the ambulance, and I was, again, making phone calls and texting everybody that I knew to just be praying. The theme throughout the next 16 hours really is just praying that we could have Shep vaginally with no C-section, and the second part of that is that he would not need the NICU at all.
Yeah.
And that was all we were praying for over the next 16 to 18 hours.
Yeah, so if you know me or us very well, we had a very specific birth plan that we were hoping to follow. We had a doula lined up. We had just the plan that we were going to try to labor at home and as long as we possibly could, and try to avoid medication as long as possible, and all of the things. Obviously at that point we were like, okay, a lot of this is going to be thrown out the door, but I think I still assumed that going to the hospital I would get to have a little bit like a normal kind of labor. As soon as we got there, the team like rushed in and started things right away. They gave me medicine right away to try to start the induction process. And I remember saying to the doctor, like, okay, will I be able to just like get up and walk around and kind of labor on my own? And the doctor said, unfortunately, no, you're stuck to the bed. I was on medication that did not allow me to even be standing because I was going to be laying down for a couple of days, and it was just heartbreaking because I knew I was going to be confined to that bed, and it was literally like, okay, my entire plan is gone, and this is what's going to happen.
And not only did they say no moving or standing, they also said no eating or drinking. And that was a really, really hard part for Ellie because she's going through so much, and really all she wanted was a sip of water, and she was not allowed to do that. She did cheat a little bit. Every time the nurses came in, she would say, can I please have water? And they'd say, no, you can have ice chips. And as soon as they walked out the door, Ellie would say, Brennan, give me my Stanley. And she would chug down half of her Stanley. So
Girls got to drink some water.
That's right.
So anyway, long story short, we did several rounds of medication. Each time they gave it to me, we had to wait 4 hours to basically determine how my body was going to respond to it, whether I was going to start dilating. I was having contractions. I was having contractions literally honestly for weeks. So we thought maybe each time they gave me the meds, it would help me to dilate. But every single time the doctors would check and be like, no progression. So finally, the last time they did it, the doctor had said to me, we can't give you any more of this medication. He gave me my options and then basically said, what are you talking about?
That's not what he said, dude.
He basically said the safest thing for you to do is have a C-section. It's like your best chance of having a healthy baby and keeping you safe. And so at that point we were like, okay, that's what we're gonna have to do. That was literally the last thing I ever wanted to do, but it was just the decision we had to make in that moment.
I was leaving every decision up to Ellie, obviously. She was mentally with it and everything, but I didn't feel like it was my place to have a large opinion about anything because it's not my body. You know, the decision to either continue with induction or to go to C-section, I really didn't feel like was up to me. So, and she immediately said, let's have a C-section. That just told me how exhausted she was and how ready she was to just have this baby.
Yeah, it had been a journey, and I was really just, I mean, there wasn't much more they could do anyway for us. But yeah, that was the situation. So it was going to be like an hour and a half until the C-section. So my parents were there. They had prayed over us and prayed with us, and then they left for a little while to give us some time together before we went into surgery. And then me and Brennan just kind of hung out in our room, and listened to some music and prayed and talked about what we thought our baby was gonna look like and all that crazy stuff. And then the team came in and started prepping me and giving me meds. And sure enough, they were wheeling me into the operating room. And Brennan was suiting up in all of his scrubs. And we were off. So the C-section itself was not my favorite thing. I wasn't really mentally prepared for a C-section, so I didn't really understand how large of a surgery that it was. I didn't react super well to the meds and didn't have the most amazing experience, but the doctors were amazing and the team was amazing, and I had no negative side effects afterwards. It just wasn't at all what I was hoping for.
Yeah, so my job, obviously, at the head of the bed was to be a stress ball and just to make Ellie as comfortable as possible, just trying to get her to smile. And I did manage to do that a couple times, and I have a picture to prove it, which you'll see at the end of this video. But it was real quick. I mean, probably 10 minutes later, around the curtain comes a little tiny baby in the doctor's arms, and that was it was a mixed bag of feelings in that moment, because all Ellie and I were hoping for, and we were actually praying for this before she went into her C-section, is just to hear him cry as soon as he was born. And that wasn't happening for the entire time that we were in that room and he was in the room with us. It was probably 10-15 minutes of just really no noise or no cries, no sounds from him. And what the team told us was that he also had gotten all the meds that Ellie had gotten, and especially the magnesium really slows things down and makes it hard for a baby to wake up. But he also was early and was not ready to breathe on his own. So we took a quick picture with him, and they took him right back away, and out he went up to the NICU, and Ellie and I went back to our room.
My parents were there with a full pizza, as I had requested. Right before I went into surgery, I was like, when I come out, please have a full pizza for me. I am starving. So I came out, there was pizza there, my parents were there. I was just so grateful, kind of that, not that it was done, but like that all of this buildup was kind of over now. All I wanted was to see my baby. This is another point. My biggest thing was that, okay, if I didn't get to have like the birth story that I wanted, my hope was that I would get like to hold my baby and have skin to skin with him and just be with him at the end of everything. And unfortunately, I didn't. That was a little bit heartbreaking, but as soon as I got wheeled into recovery, Brennan got to go see Shep.
Yeah, the first question that Ellie asked the nursing staff was, when can I see him? And they said, you have to wait 2 hours. And I said, when can I go see him? And they said, you can go right now. So I left Ellie with her parents with pizza, and I went up to the NICU. In that moment, it just, all that I felt like was that I wanted to meet my baby. I knew that Ellie was okay. Her parents were with her. You know, in a perfect world, we would have had just some family time with the three of us where Ellie and I could just bond with our baby together and just have that sweet moment. But that's just not how it happened. And in the moment, like I said, there was really no negative feelings about anything. We just both wanted to meet our baby, and that was it.
And so Brennan got to go up to the NICU while I was down there, and I just remember he was sending me pictures and videos, and I was just so grateful to get to see my baby through pictures. And I remember for the rest of the entire night, I was literally laying in bed, and they kept saying, like, make sure you get rest, make sure you get sleep. And I could not stop staring at those pictures of him, and I was just so excited to get to go see him. He was intubated at that point, so we were unable to hold him for a little while. I guess fast forwarding to the next day, we woke up the next morning, and so we went up to see him, and he was intubated. And so they told us that until the tube was removed, we were not going to be able to hold him, but we could touch him and we could talk to him and all of those things. And that was hard. I think, like, you have your baby and then you finally get to go see him, but you're not able to hold him. That was tricky. And all I wanted to do was to be able to feed my baby and have that, like, bonding experience. And again, Shep also had a feeding tube, so I wasn't able to feed him for several days. I was just pumping and they were feeding him through the tube.
Yeah, our daily schedule for a week in the NICU was we would get up super early and go straight to the NICU, and we would stay there the entire day until like the nursing staff left, like 11 p.m., sometimes later. And we would be there all the time.
That whole time that Shep was in the NICU, we stayed at the Ronald McDonald House, so we would get back to the house really late, and then we would sleep and wake up in the morning and go back to the NICU and stay at the NICU for the whole day.
I don't want to say that I didn't have any empathy for people who have babies and go to the NICU, but like Ellie said, you truly don't understand it until it's you in that situation. And the workers, nurses, doctors that are in the NICU, the nurses and the doctors that work in the NICU are a different breed. I could never even imagine working in that environment. Ellie and I spent enough time in there to, even when you're just walking down the hallway to take a walk and you're looking to your left and to your right and you're seeing these tiny babies who are 1 pound to, I mean, they're tiny and they're crying and there's no one in the room with them. There's no parents. And just after a few days, I was sitting in the room with Ellie, and she was having skin to skin with Shep, and it was such a great moment. But I came in and I just broke down, and Ellie was asking me what was wrong, and all that I could really say was, I think this place is starting to break my heart. All that to say, the NICU is a tough place, and we hope we never have to experience it again, but it gave us a huge appreciation and a lot of empathy and sympathy and love for the people who are in that situation.
So fast forward to the end of our stay at the NICU, we had been told that after they had taken all interventions away from Shep, that we were going to be able to get to go home the next day. We were so excited. We went back to the Ronald McDonald House and started packing our stuff. And we were so excited that the next day we were going to get to take our baby home. So I had called the NICU at like 6 in the morning when I was pumping the next morning, just to make sure, check in and make sure everything was good. And the nurse who was on night duty told me that Shep had an oxygen dip. They call it a spell. And that would require 5 more days in the NICU to monitor him. So basically every time they have a spell, it starts over a 5-day track. I lost it, and we both, like, it was the most horrible news. And take that with a grain of salt, because our situation in the NICU was not nearly as bad as most situations, but in our world and in that moment, it wrecked us. And I remember at 6 a.m. I was just like, we need to get there, we need to get there. And I felt like it was my fault that he had dipped because I wasn't there with him. And so we had reached out to all of our friends and all of our family and just said, please pray. Like, pray so hard for a miracle. Like, I literally remember texting just like a couple of my close friends and saying, like, I need a miracle. Like, we need a miracle. Pray that for some crazy reason, he's going to get to be able to come home still. We went back to the NICU. I was sitting there feeding Shep, and Brennan every morning would go get us coffee, and the doctors do their rounds during that time. And I remember just holding him and sobbing with him on me, and literally just feeling like I was on my knees begging God to like make something happen. This is crazy. And then the doctor comes in to do their rounds, and she came in and she was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, I was like reviewing everything, and I was looking at his strip. It was like his oxygen strip of exactly what it looked like. And she was like, and he didn't actually have a dip. It was just a sensor fell off. And she was like, so I'm totally comfortable with sending you guys home today. And I have chills. I literally have chills because it was like so crazy. Like, what are the odds that that would happen? Brennan came back and I was like, we're going home. And called everybody and told them we were going home. And we just started prepping for home.
We were so thankful to have him home, and we were so thankful to be home. And then it was time to figure out how to be parents.
That's pretty much Shep's birth story. I think there are a few things we probably missed or left out, but that was the gist of it. He's just had a rocky start. Since we've been home, he's had some health issues and some hiccups along the way. Don't really need to get into all of that, but he did give us another ambulance ride back to Buffalo Children's at 8 weeks old, and where he was admitted to the PICU. So it hasn't been an easy start. It's absolutely been rocky. And we're still in the midst of trying to get it all figured out, but it's been amazing. And this is his story, and this is our first baby story. And
it's one thing when you're on your own, or it's just you and your wife or your spouse, and you're praying that whatever happens is God's plan and not your plan. But it just feels different when you're saying that prayer for your child. So even though things have been difficult from the start, Ellie and I have really just, I feel like we've taken every step in stride. Not to say that we haven't complained or cried or gotten angry, but it's easier to do hard things when you're doing the hard things for your kids.
We're just continuing to pray that he grows and develops well, and that everything will be smooth sailing from here on out. Shep is now almost 4 months. He's a chunk. He's a big boy. He's put on some weight. He's almost on his growth curve. He's almost there.
He's in the first percentile for both height and weight.
Yes. And
he's just a little bundle of joy. We love him. He doesn't sleep much.
No. That's the other thing. He's not a great sleeper, but every day will get a little better. I just keep saying he's a preemie. I
sleep great.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. So, anyway.
That's right. I think that's it for today.
I can tell you have to poop.
Oh.
No more for heaven now to give. I stand with joy before